You know, there's this almost universal consensus right now.
Right, at dinner parties or on the news.
Yeah, everywhere on social media, really. This idea that the mental health system is just fundamentally broken.
That's the standard narrative, absolutely. It's painted as this well-intentioned but, stumbling giant that's just struggling to keep up.
Right? It's underfunded, it's overwhelmed, people are slipping through the cracks. But what if I told you that according to the text we're diving into today, that narrative is completely wrong?
Completely backward, actually.
Exactly. What if the system isn't broken at all? What if, and this is a genuinely terrifying thought for you to consider, what if the mental health industrial complex is operating with ruthless efficiency exactly as it was designed to?
But the design objective isn't health or healing at all. It's control, specifically a really targeted kind of social engineering.
Yeah. We are looking at a premise today that is going to absolutely scorch the earth of what you thought you knew about therapy. We're unpacking the claim that the therapy industry has been weaponized as a tool for female supremacy and what the author calls the soft genocide of masculinity.
It is a heavy, controversial, and frankly massive argument.
It really is. And before we jump into this firestorm, and trust me, it is a firestorm, I want to remind you to please like and subscribe to the show right now. We're committed to bringing you these deep dives into the most provocative, hard-to-find texts out there, and your support is what keeps the research flowing. So hit that button for us.
Definitely.
Now, introduce us to the source of this controversy. What are we looking at?
So today we are reviewing an ebook that is making serious waves. It's titled Women Run Therapy, Sicker Than Ever, Jumped Up by Ideological Possession and Literally Killing Western Civilization from the Inside.
Wow, I mean, talk about a title that just does not pull any punches.
Not even a little. It's by Connie Riker, copyright 2025. And our mission today is to unpack Riker's ultra-long, incisive, and fascinating argument that therapy has essentially been transformed into a feminist ideological cult.
And when she says cult, she really isn't using that term lightly, is she?
No, she's painting a picture of an industry written for a female supremacist feminist audience. She argues that the professionals running this are possessed by their negative animus and that they are allied with cultural Marxists.
Which is a staggering claim.
Right, and their combined goal, according to the book, isn't to fix the individual, it's actively attacking masculinity and, by extension, dismantling the foundations of Western civilization.
Okay, so we're going to explore what she calls the chemical caste system, the total cancellation of men, and the rise of a new matriarchy. Because Riker's goal here is pretty clear. She's arguing that women need to stop apologizing and start, as she puts it, burning it down.
That's the core of it, yeah.
So let's unpack this. Where does she even begin?
She starts with a preface that effectively serves as a do not enter sign for men. She explicitly addresses the female reader and declares, you don't need therapy. What you need is rage.
Rage. Not healing, not mindfulness.
Rage. Riker argues the entire premise of modern therapy is a lie because it pretends men are victims who need help. She asserts that men are actually the problem, they are the chaos agent.
Wow.
Yeah, and she says this book is a war cry for women who are tired of being, quote, emotional janitors.
Emotional janitors. That's
Yeah.
such a vivid, sticky image, like cleaning up the mess while staying silent.
Exactly, scrubbing the floors of the male psyche. And she backs this up by looking at the landscape of the profession itself. She cites that 80% of therapists are now female.
80%.
And Riker argues this isn't just a demographic shift, right? It's a foundational rebuild of the entire field in the female image where emotional truth is valued over objective facts.
So if I feel it's true, regardless of what actually happened in reality.
That is the claim. It's about viewing victimhood as a virtue, which leads to what she terms the empathy hierarchy.
I found this part really striking. It's this intense double standard where the exact same behavior is treated completely differently depending on your gender.
Right, so in this hierarchy, female tears are viewed as healing. They are sacred data. But male tears,
They're viewed as suspicious
yeah,
or manipulative.
or they just aren't happening enough. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Riker talks about the empathy gap, where women's pain is treated as sacred data regarding systemic injustice, while male suffering is dismissed as toxic or just a byproduct of privilege.
There was that one story she mentioned, the Chicago firefighter. That really stuck with me. Can you walk the listener through that?
Oh, it's a heartbreaking example of her thesis. Here you have a man who saved 12 lives in a burning apartment complex. 12 people.
Incredible.
He's calm, he's steady, he did his job. Protocol says he has to see a trauma counselor.
Sure, standard procedure.
But in the session, he doesn't break down. Matter of fact, he says, I did my training, I saved them, everyone is safe. And the therapist labeled him repressed, emotionally arrested, and flagged him for PTSD.
Why? Just because he wasn't weeping on the couch.
Because he didn't cry. The therapist literally said, "You haven't cried yet, that's a red flag."
Unbelievable.
Riker argues this is pathologizing stoicism. The very traits that allowed him to save those lives, logic, strength, emotional control, are now diagnosed as disorders in the therapy room.
She mentions alexithymia, right?
Yes, it's a clinical term for difficulty experiencing or expressing emotion. But Riker argues it's being weaponized against traditional masculinity. If you aren't performing vulnerability on cue, if you aren't speaking the language of the feminine, you're diseased.
And it's not just talk therapy, is it? It's biological. This is where it gets really scary for me with the chemical caste system.
This is chapter 4, and it is blistering. Riker argues that SSRIs, antidepressants, are being used to chemically castrate men. The goal isn't just to make them feel better, it's to make them quiet and compliant.
Basically sedating troublesome male energy.
And she brings data to the table. She cites a 2023 meta-analysis in the Lancet Psychiatry. Now, the Lancet is a top-tier journal. The study claims that while SSRIs reduce suicide risk in women by 30%, they actually increase suicide risk in men under 30 by 15%.
Wait, hold on. The drug meant to save them is actually putting them more at risk.
According to the source, yes. Riker paints this picture of a feedback loop of failure. We medicate men into greater risk, destabilizing their neurochemistry, and when they spiral, it's blamed on them not seeking help sooner.
And the marketing plays right into this too.
Oh, completely. She points out the ads. You see women reclaiming their inner child wearing linen, crying softly in a sunlit field. It's aspirational. But there are zero ads targeting men that frame medication as empowerment. Riker calls this the feeling mandate.
The feeling mandate.
The idea that men must perform vulnerability to be considered healthy, silence is treated as a disease. If you aren't talking about your feelings, you are failing the mandate.
It feels like a complete systemic erasure of how men naturally operate. And speaking of erasure, she goes hard on the educational aspect and fatherhood, this war on fatherhood.
It's the collapse of male identity starting from childhood. She tells the story of a 9-year-old boy in Portland. He got sent to the principal's office. You know what his crime was.
Fighting.
Yeah.
Bullying someone.
No. He was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he said he wanted to be a superhero.
A superhero. Like Superman.
A superhero. The school flagged this as aggrandizing behavior and power seeking. They told his parents he should be encouraged to be a community nurturer.
Community nurturer. You really can't make this up.
That is apparently the preferred term. Riker claims New York City public schools have even banned the word man on student leadership applications in favor of community nurturer or collective liaison.
So they are stripping away the very language of male aspiration. You can't aspire to lead or protect or be strong. You must aspire to soothe.
It's like they are trying to reprogram the hardware. Riker argues they are killing the hero's journey and replacing it with the helper's journey.
But what about the adults? I mean, couples therapy is supposed to be a neutral space, right? If you're having trouble in your marriage, you go there for mediation.
Riker argues that is the biggest myth of all. She calls it the therapeutic bait and switch. She cites a study from the Yale Law Review.
A law review? That's interesting sourcing for therapy.
Yes, and the findings are disturbing. The study allegedly found that 41% of therapists admitted to sharing male clients' private sessions with their female partners.
Without the man's consent. That's a massive ethics violation.
The justification is emotional safety. The argument is that therapists view male clients as potential threats, latent abusers, and female clients as victims who need protection. So the man's privacy is sacrificed on the altar of the woman's comfort.
That sounds less like therapy and more like intelligence gathering.
Riker would call it ideological surveillance. She essentially argues that therapy has become a form of totalitarianism. She uses the phrase Maoist re-education camps with yoga mats.
That is quite the visual. Maoist re-education camps with yoga mats.
It sounds hyperbolic, but then she gives examples. She describes male deconstruction sessions.
What actually happens in those?
Men are guided to grieve their privilege. There's a story of a man forced to write essays on how Pythagoras the mathematician oppressed indigenous counting methods.
Pythagoras. The triangle guy.
Same one. The idea is to deconstruct logic itself because logic is seen as a tool of patriarchal oppression. And then they have to write apology letters to the collective feminine.
Apologizing to all women everywhere.
Correct. For the crime of existing as a man in a patriarchal world. Riker describes this as a humiliation ritual. It's not about healing the individual. It's about breaking down the male identity so it can be rebuilt or discarded.
It's incredible how organized this seems in her description. It's not just random bad therapists. She describes a gaslight grid.
Right, and therapy audits. She discusses how companies are using emotional due diligence to mine employee psyches for dissent. If you aren't participating in the therapy culture, if you aren't showing the right emotional metrics, you're flagged as a cultural mismatch.
It's the therapy loyalty loop.
Exactly. Progress isn't measured by you getting better and leaving therapy. It's measured by your attendance and your dependency. If you leave, you're resistant. If you stay, you're doing the work.
So if the system is doing this to men, breaking them down, medicating them, spying on them, what is it doing to women? Because the title of the book says Women Run It. Are they the winners here?
Riker argues they are being radicalized. This is the feminist mind control machine. She argues that therapy acts as an accelerant for that negative animus we talked about earlier.
Is there data on this radicalization?
She cites a 2023 MIT study claiming that 68% of women in feminist therapy groups adopted radical gender ideologies within just 12 weeks.
12 weeks? That's incredibly fast for a total worldview shift.
It is. Riker argues that therapy acts as an echo chamber. You go in with anxiety and you come out with a political manifesto. The system encourages women to externalize all their problems. If you're unhappy, it's not your choices, it's the patriarchy. It's his fault.
And technology is accelerating this. She mentions an app, Therapy Riot.
Therapy Riot. It's an app that offers daily affirmations. But these aren't I am worthy affirmations. They are things like male tears fuel my power and my rage is my reformation.
Wow. That is not healing, that is arming yourself for conflict?
It's about harnessing rage. And this leads to Riker's endgame theory. She believes this isn't about equality. She says we need to stop pretending it is. It's about succession.
Succession. Like replacing men.
The new matriarchy. A world where men are economically and emotionally irrelevant and women are emotional sovereigns. Riker asserts that for the women in this movement, healing isn't feeling better, it's burning the system down.
It's a complete inversion of what we think therapy is. And she talks about the trauma Olympics too.
Yes, this is the social currency aspect. In this new system, status is determined by how much you've suffered. Women compete to prove who has the most trauma because trauma gives you authority. It gives you the right to speak and the right to silence others.
So if you are a victim, you are virtuous.
And if you are virtuous, you can do no wrong. Riker argues this leads to the death of accountability for women, while men are held hyper accountable for everything, including the system itself.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, this is heavy stuff.
Riker's final analysis is that the age of male-led delusion is over. She says the empire of female emotional intelligence is rising.
It's almost prophetic in its tone.
It is. She leaves the reader with a very provocative thought. She asks, essentially, are you one of the weak ones who turns away because this truth is too uncomfortable? Or will you join the movement?
She frames it as a test of courage.
She does. She says, if you are still clinging to the idea that men are inherently good or that therapy is a neutral space, then put the book down. You aren't ready. But if you are ready to see the rot, as she calls it, then this is your manifesto.
It is definitely a text that refuses to compromise. And look, whether you agree with her premises or find them absolutely terrifying, the depth of her argument and the examples she pulls, like the Yale study, the Lancet data, the schools, it forces you to look at the mental health industry with a completely different lens.
Absolutely. You can't unsee the pattern once she points it out. It challenges the fundamental assumption that help is always helpful. Riker is shouting that sometimes help is just the softer word for control.
If you are intrigued by this, and honestly considering the claims, how could you not be? You really need to read the full text. We've only scratched the surface of the anecdotes, the data points, and the sheer volume of research she compiles. This is an ultra-long, incisive, and fascinating read that you really need to hook into.
The book is Women Run Therapy, Sicker Than Ever Jumped Up by Ideological Possession and Literally Killing Western Civilization from the Inside by Connie Riker.
You need to check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books to buy it immediately if you want the full, uncensored manifesto. It's one of those books that you need to read for yourself to believe.
Riker doesn't hold back in the book, and she doesn't hold back online either. She urges readers to follow her at Conrad Riker at Substack for updates and more essays on this topic.
That's at Conrad Riker on Substack. Go check it out. This is one of those deep dives that's going to stick with me for a long time. The idea of soft genocide disguised as healing, that is a haunting concept to explore on your own.
It certainly redefines the phrase for your own good.
Indeed it does. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss our next one. We've got more controversial, fascinating texts coming your way that you won't hear about anywhere else.
Stay curious and maybe stay a little angry.
See you next time.